Well, welcome to a special Harry's Garage video. I'm at Silverstone Auctions again for a preview of two of their sales coming up in a few days' time. Today is Wednesday, and the first sale is the Porsche Sale on the Friday, 28th of September, and then they've got a September sale collection on the 29th on the Saturday. And we're at this new venue. I mean, a crazy place. It's the Dallas Burston Polo Club. Huge, great 600-acre estate. I've driven past it for a number of years, never knew what was here, and it is just extraordinary when you get here. Great big venue, wonderful hall, pub down the road, all sorts of things, so well worth a visit. Well, what this sale is all about is the cars, so let's go and have a closer look. Okay, well, this is the first car I want to feature, and that is this Diablo SV. And this car is a 1996 car, and I remember this car particularly well because I actually drove this car because this was the original press car. And I did a Car of the Year with John Barker and Richard Meaden for Performance Car up in the Yorkshire Dales. I've never really driven a Lamborghini like this, and this was my first taste of Lamborghini craziness. And it was just extraordinary on the test, having this on the York moors. So it's had quite a life, this car. After it was a press car, it was then sold to an owner who then sold it to Alpine, and the stereo guys, and they had it as a show car as well. Now it's got 33,000 kilometres showing. It's had some titillation just to improve it over the years, and it presents really nicely. I just think these cars are pretty special. The SV, what it added was more performance. The horsepower went up to 510 horsepower, but the trick was they put a lower diff in it, and you had lower gearing, sprint gearing if you like, so it was quicker on the 0 to 60. And it didn't actually have a 200-mile-an-hour top speed because it hit its rev limit at about 186 or thereabouts, but you got the extra performance. So a real driver's version, two-wheel drive as well. They were actually slightly cheaper than the VT. I think they've got a special place in Lamborghini history. The other thing I love about them is this Yota, the air intakes here. You only ever see those on the SE30 Yota or the Diablo SV. This car is lot 334, guided at 130 to 150,000 pounds. I think your money's pretty safe in one of these. It's one of the cars I'd quite like in my garage. Right, this is another car I just have to feature, and that's the Lancia Delta Integrale you see here. So the Evo edition, not the Evo 2, which you can tell because it has the different seats, hasn't got the Recaros in, but the interior is terrific in this car. What I particularly like about this example, it's so original. Okay, it's coming from Japan. You can always check a Japanese Integrale because they have different size headlights, so the bigger ones in outlet, that means it's a Japanese vehicle. But the thing about cars that come in from Japan is they're generally in perfect body condition, and we do know that these cars can rust. And this car is immaculate, top and bottom. I've looked right through, it looks absolutely terrific. Where you want to check on Integrale is just always lift the boot lid and you just check there's rust down there. But in red, an Evo like this, and the other thing I like on it is the rear parcel shelf hasn't been cut and put giant speakers. Quite a few of them have that. So a really nice example. This one is lot 307 and is guided at 35 to 40,000. Another one I think is a good buy in this sale. Right, here's one car, Porsche I wanted to feature, and this is the 3-litre RSR, 1974. Obviously this is an evocation, this isn't a real one, but I know the owner of this car. He's gone through the pain barrier to get this car ready. He bought it a few years ago, and the FAI papers are run out, and then he got new FAI papers issued. It was a 2-3 year journey, lots of mods, lots of modifications the FAI required. This now has 10-year FAI papers. This is eligible for 6-hour Spa, Le Mans Classic, all sorts of things. It wouldn't take very much to get a number plate on the front of this car now as well, and then you can do the Tour Auto and things like that in France. I mean, an extraordinary car, super lightweight as you can see, the great big oil cooler at the front, and then the engine, really special. It's a twin plug head, it has the slider throttle bodies, it's the ultimate version of 3-litre flat 6 engine. It absolutely screams, this car, when you drive it. It's a huge, incredible experience. It's the ultimate classic Porsche, and yet it's guided, well, 85 to 95,000. If you try to buy a real 3-litre RSR, you're looking at 1.4, 1.5 million. I can't believe it'll go for what it's guided at. It has to go for a bit more, but just look at it. Really special car. Okay, I just want to show you this Mercedes SL. This is the 600 model, the V12 version, and a very early car. This is one of the very first that came to the UK and has only covered a remarkable 6,800 miles. Now this was much more expensive than the 500 SL in its day, and it just is extraordinary how they cram the V12 into this engine bay. When you open the bonnet, it's just extraordinary. I have one of these as well. It reminds me, I got it because it was a companion to my Pagani Zonda, because they share the same engine. Inside, as you imagine, that sort of mileage is absolutely perfect. The only thing I can fault it on, it has slightly different indicators. They're meant to be yellow and the rear clusters are not quite right. I mentioned it to the person who delivered it, and he opened the boot and there they are. The originals are in the boot. So if you wanted an unmolested, perfect 600 SL, here you are. It is lot 345 and it's guided at a 40 to 50,000. Yeah, they're getting quite a following, these cars, but still a bit of a bargain for what you're actually getting. Okay, here's one car I was really keen to feature, and this is this Audi Quattro from 1982. It's pre-production, it's described out in right-hand drive form. Quattro was first shown to the press in 1980, and this car I know really well because it was delivered to me to drive out to Geneva Motor Show in 2010, and I got to know this car really well. I did 1,000 miles out and 1,000 miles back, on the snow, everything. And I couldn't get over how this car, the difference between this 10 valve Quattro and a 20 valve Quattro which I've owned in the past. This had much more punch when that turbo came in. Bigger turbo, bigger shove, slightly lower horsepower, but it was lovely how it performed on that journey. I also loved it's got this velour interior, and you had mechanical locking diffs that operated on buttons on the dash as well. So a bit of Quattro history. This car has had a real refresh. It presents very well. I'm looking in the guide and it's lot 336. Estimate is 50 to 60,000 pounds, but a real significant car in the world of performance cars. Well, the next car is this Ferrari 550. I really like the colour combination on this. Rare to see them in black and the crema interior. Looks really nice, and just one of my favourite Ferraris. Front engined, V12 and a manual gearbox. The last car where the Ferrari with the manual gearbox was standard. A real relaxed cruiser GT. I was lucky enough to own one of these. I did 40,000 miles in it. Had no real issues with it. And it was what I couldn't get over is how elastic that engine was. You could leave it at 1,000 RPM and tickle around, and then it would just fly. You took it round to the red line, 7,500. The other thing about this car, I could tell, out in Germany, I actually maxed my Ferrari 550, and it was one of the easiest cars to get 200 miles an hour on the speedo. It went sailing past the 200 mile an hour mark. I think it's actually quite a slippery car. So yeah, a proper gentleman's GT car. This car in the auction is a lot 331 and guided at 95 to 110,000. So yeah, pretty good value for a front engine V12 Ferrari. Now I have to show you around this really special Lamborghini Espada. This is the Series 3 Espada, so that meant it had a slightly different interior, had a wrap-round dash, has power steering, and you can tell it from this different grille. But I ought to note that this car is unique. It's come in from the USA, it's a one-owner car, and it was owned by a gentleman who made an absolute fortune because he supplied the cheese to Domino's and pizza, and mozzarella he supplied right around the world. And the result was he owned an Espada as well as private jets and all sorts of things, and he made it his car. And so he's made slight modifications on this car, like these are chrome, these vents in the bonnet, they're chrome, they should be black. He's put a different interior in, he's added some velvet, some purple velvet that sounds awful but actually kind of suits the car. I also like how around the dash he's made it black rather than aluminium. Actually, when you're buying an Espada, I own an Espada, you buy it on condition, and this car has only done 28,000 miles from new. It has been utterly pampered throughout its life, and underneath looks the same as this does on top. So it's a beautiful condition, and if you actually want to bring it back to standard, it wouldn't take an awful lot to sort of de-chrome it and get back to standard. And this car is lot 341, guided at 90 to 110,000 pounds. That's slightly below market value, but I think this is a really good condition car and worth that sort of money if you're after an Espada. Nice car. Okay, here's one of those surprises you find at auctions sometimes, and that's the Datsun 240Z you see here. 1971 this car 47 years old, and yet looks pretty fresh to me. Now, it's had a really interesting history, this car. 1971 is the very start of 240Z production, really rare in this country. It came to the UK, right-hand drive, and it then went racing from the late 70s on, did a huge amount of racing, and then was converted back into a road car as you see it now. So it has a breathed on engine, an utterly standard interior. They've de-chromed it so it hasn't got the rear bumpers. I can tell it's an early 240Z because it's got these vents on the rear thing. I think it looks really clean, and it's one of those cars that waves at you and you think, oh, that's really quite sexy. So it's lot 351, and the estimate is 20 to 25,000 for a real peach of Japanese history. Okay, this is the Porsche 968 Club Sport, a real driver's version of the car. Porsche came out in '94. But what's unusual in this sale, there's two examples available, both the same colour, both with a black interior. How do you choose between the two? Well, this one here is a slightly higher mileage, 61,000 miles, and has had a lot of money spent on it, 18,000 recently on expenses, but it's got like the standard seats in it, while this one is lower mileage and it's got the Fitz bucket seats, which I think was a very nice option in those days. Porsche were really clever back in '94 because the sales are slightly slowing. So what they do, they decontent the car, turn it, lighten it, turn it a real driver's version, and the world loved it. And they sold, well, 179 in the UK, which doesn't sound a lot, but it was a bit of a sales success, and now they're almost legendary status. Two good examples, both guided at the same sort of price, 36 to 42,000 for that one, and this one is 30 to 35,000. So yeah, hard to choose between the two. Look, two very nice examples to me. Okay, this has just rolled in. This is the 2007 Lamborghini Murcielago LP640 Versace, the Versace edition, only 20 produced. And you can tell it's Versace. There's a little bit of the pattern, famous pattern, Versace pattern on the side of the doors. And then when you lift the interior, well, the seats have this extra stitching. Won't be to everybody's taste, but just look at it. The Murcielago, I think, gets better looking as the years slip by. I can see on here it has the carbon weave bonnet. There's quite a lot of carbon in this car. And black on black wheels. It's as mean as you like. It's got the glass covers on the engine. And the value of this car, well, it's only done 8,600 miles and the estimate is 150 to 170,000. Quite a statement car. Don't think I'll ever go out of fashion with that V12. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed that quick tour around some of the star lots at these two sales happening in a few days' time. Remember, the Porsche sale is on Friday the 28th of September, and then the general sale, the September sale, is on Saturday the 29th of September. Remember, you don't have to be here at this extraordinary venue, this Dallas Burston Polo Club venue, which is well worth a visit. You can also bid online, or you can get a telephone bid in, or a commission bid, however you want to do it. But some great cars here. Auctions are always great fun to watch and to see and to be at. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, keep watching, keep subscribing. More videos coming along very soon.